Thanks for joining, everybody. Today we will be covering from spam to success, deliverability as best practices. Our agenda today is going to be, we'll get started by talking about what email deliverability is and why it's important. Then we will walk through how emails reach or miss the inbox and what factors can impact your sender reputation. We'll also cover authentication basics, getting proper consent, keeping your list healthy, and tips to help your emails avoid the spam folder. Throughout this session, we will take a look inside ACT marketing automation to show you how to apply these best practices in real life. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll be monitoring and responding live throughout the webinar. And after today's session, you'll get a short survey where you can share your feedback and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. We really want to make sure that these webinars are helpful and tailored to what you need most. Also, keep in mind that we do record this webinar and we will be sending that out in links to you at the end of the webinar. So to get started today, I am Andy Wood. I am the ACT trainer and email specialist for ACT Marketing Automation. I am a Colorado native, and I have been part of the ACT support team for over 15 years now. I provide email marketing support and training for ACT and our customers. And I have, as a hobby, teach American Kempo, and I have 6 kids and a bunch of nieces and nephews. So to get started, what is email deliverability? Email deliverability is the rate at which your emails actually make it into your recipients' inboxes. It's not enough to hit send. Your email has to survive all the filters and checkpoints in between. Now, deliverability can suffer if your email bounces, meaning it never reaches the recipient at all, or if it gets automatically filtered into a spam or junk folder. And in today's world, with tighter privacy laws and increasingly smart spam filters, getting delivered into an inbox is not a guarantee. Even legitimate senders like us need to understand the factors that inbox providers use to decide whether an email should land in the inbox or not. Throughout this session, we're going to break down exactly what impacts deliverability and, more importantly, what you can do to stack the odds in your favor to make sure that your emails actually get seen. So we have a bunch of foundations of email deliverability, and let's get started by understanding and getting grounded in what actually causes an email and to get into the inbox and how it gets checked and what path it goes through. So in this slide here, you see we have our user accounts, which is like your email address. Let's say that you have your Hotmail account, your Gmail account, you have your business Outlook account, that would be the user account. And then you have the inbox, and part of the inbox is a junk or spam folder. And the way that things end up in the junk or spam folder is based upon a criteria that is given by a spam filter. And so let's go ahead and take a look at how this process works. So you have your email, and this could be, in our case, the email service provider. You send out your email through the email service provider. It goes to the send server from you. From the send server, it will either go to the recipient mail server, or if the recipient mail server says, no, I'm not going to accept this, or this particular user does not live here, it's going to bounce it and it's going to send it back to the sending mail server. If it does make it past that, then it can go to a spam filter, and then the spam filter is going to check the content, the sender reputation, and all that of the email. And then depending upon how the spam filter fills that the email scores, it's either going to land in your inbox or go to your junk spam folder. Um, and that's basically how the process works. So there's a lot of steps in between, and it can break down in between any one of these steps. And sometimes it can take a while for these bounce responses to get back, or if the email recipient server doesn't accept the email, it can take several hours or even possibly days to deliver an email. It's not always an instantaneous thing. So that is another thing that we need to keep in mind. Um, each one of these servers is managed by a different ISP or provider, and therefore they act independently of each other. They all have different spam filters, so they all scan and look at emails differently. So we have to be aware of that. So sender reputation and authentication. Now that we have a solid grasp on the big picture of deliverability, let's zoom in on critical piece of the puzzle, sender reputation. This is like your email credit score, and it directly influences whether your messages land in the inbox or the spam folder. So as you can see here, we have our recipient engagement, we have our spam traps, we have our hard bounces, we have our spam complaints, we have our content blocks, we have volume consistency, technical sending, and blacklists. And all of these things and how our emails interact with these things is how our sender reputation is developed. So let's talk a little bit about that. This is one of the most important factors in determining whether your emails land in the inbox or the spam folder. Sender reputation is essentially a score assigned to your sending domain or IP address by mailbox providers like Gmail, Outlook, or Yahoo. It's based on your past sending behavior and how recipients interact with your emails. You can think of it kind of like a credit score, just like having no credit. It's treated like bad credit. No sending emails regularly or sending poor quality lists can really hurt you. And the tricky part, there's no central credit bureau where you can see your sender reputation. Each provider has their own secret formula. There are three main things that impact the reputation. First is engagement and complaints. These are people that are opening, clicking, or marking your messages as spam. Second is your list quality and hygiene. This means keeping the list of bad addresses and spam traps or people who never engage. And then third, sending behavior. If your volume spikes, your frequency is inconsistent, or your authentication isn't properly set up, your reputation can take a hit. All of these signals are being watched. So maintaining good habits consistently over time is key to strong inbox placement. So next, we're going to take a look at our email authentication simplified. Um, Starting with SPF or Sender Policy Framework, this is like a guest list that says, these are the servers allowed to send mail from my domain. The good news is that ACT already handles this automatically on your behalf, so there's no need to set up this information on your side. We already set this up inside the envelope of the message. The next is DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. Think of this as a tamper-proof seal that ensures your mail hasn't been altered in transit. We generate the key for you, and then you add that to your domain on your DNS server. The last part is the DMARC. This is the policy layer that tells inbox providers what to do if an email fails the SPF or DKIM checks. It is also where you can get visibility into spoofing attempts. You'll need to enable DMARC on your end, but it is the final step in protecting your brand and your email reputation. Together, these three form your email security foundation, and they help make sure your messages are getting delivered to or not getting delivered to the junk folders. Now, some recent changes that have happened in the last couple of years, Yahoo and Google have more strictly enforced DMARC policies. If you plan on sending out to more than 5,000 emails, you have to make sure that you have a DMARC policy enabled on your domain, or it will automatically reject it. So please make sure that if you plan on sending more than 5,000 emails at a time, that you have both your DKIM and your DMARC authentication set up. Consent and permission is the next thing. At the heart of every strong email strategy, the one thing that we have is permission. Not just having an email address, but having the right to use it. So let's talk about what that looks like. What is explicit permission and why does it matter? This isn't just a checkbox or a formality. It's just about mutual clarity and trust. The subscriber should know exactly what they're signing up for, and you should feel confident that you have a real willing audience. Under the Act anti-spam policy and many international laws, explicit permission is a requirement that means someone clearly and knowingly opted in to receiving marketing emails from you. And not just once upon a time, you need to document when, how, and why they opted in. This includes source data and method, something you can add and should track in your ACT database. Permission must be freely given, no tricks, no pre-check boxes, specific, what kind of content, how often, and why it matters, informed and unambiguous. So there's no confusion about what they're agreeing to. Think of it kind of like a handshake agreement. If you're signing up for a form and it's vague or misleading, it won't hold up. And not only that, it can trigger spam complaints. It can drag down your sender reputation. But when you get this right, you stay compliant, build trust, and see better engagement. More opens, more clicks, more conversations. That's the real power of getting permission right. So next, about obtaining explicit permission. When it comes to explicit permission, the good news is it doesn't have to be very complex. A few simple steps can go a long way in building trust and staying compliant. Start by making it clear that marketing emails are optional. Transactional emails like receipts or login confirmations do not require opt-in, but promotional messages do. Be transparent about what kind of content you'll be sending and how often. If someone thinks they're signing up for a monthly update and ends up getting daily offers, that's a quick way to lose trust. Your branding should be upfront and center. Opt-ins, no mystery, website or unfamiliar domains. The sender should always be easily identifiable. So make sure that you have your branding upfront so that they can see it correctly. Also, always get separate permission for different types of campaigns. Don't use a single checkbox to cover everything. That's how subscribers get surprised and how reputations get damaged. Finally, the opt-in box must be clear and require an action. No pre-check boxes. A checked box says, I agree, but only if they check it themselves. It cannot be pre-checked. An example of this is that you could send out a opt-in form where you say, what would you like to see the content about? Would you like to see our product, our newsletters, our updates, and stuff like that? And then you can capture that information inside your ACT database. So what doesn't count as explicit permission? First up, third-party lists. This includes emails from associations, partners, or purchase lists. Someone else may have gathered the address, but if they didn't directly say yes to you, it doesn't count as a permission-based email. And make no mistake, even if the third party collected the email, you're the one who's held accountable if something goes wrong. Next is implied permission. This is where we see email addresses collected from events, badges, business card drops, or checkout pages. Those actions don't automatically mean the contact agreed to receiving marketing. You'll need to have clear consent, not just a data point. And finally, old permission. If someone opted in years ago but hasn't heard from you since, that permission has likely expired. Email providers care about ongoing engagement, not historical intent. So here's the rule of thumb. If you're unsure whether permission was explicit, it probably wasn't, and it's always better to reconfirm than to risk your sender reputation. Email confirmation, aka double opt-in. Um, Double opt-in is a two-step process. First, a user submits their email address to subscribe. They then receive a confirmation email and must click a link to verify their subscription. Only after this is complete have they completed the double opt-in and can be added to your list. So now, why go through these extra steps? Because the benefits are huge, especially for email deliverability. It boosts your sender reputation, reduces your bounce rates, and helps keep spam traps and fake emails out of your list. In short, you're left with a cleaner and more engaged audience, and inbox providers love that. A few best practices are send the confirmation email right away while interest is still high. Use a clear subject line and CTA or call to action, and make sure this email is branded simple and mobile friendly. Also, reinforce the value of subscribing so people know what they're signing up for, and test your opt in links regularly to make sure they're working. Bottom line, the double opt in process may slightly reduce your total signups, but it drastically improves list quality. And that's what really matters when we're working for deliverability and long-term performance. Next here, we're going to cover our list health in spam traps, and I'll go into ACT here in a little bit, and I'll show you how it's related and some things you can do with list health. So here is spam traps and list health. What builds up list health? And believe it or not, it's those same things that we talked about with reputation: recipient engagement, spam trap hits, hard bounces, spam complaints, content blocks, volume consistency, technical sending, and blacklists. Pristine. So part of this are pristine and recycled spam traps. Picture sending emails like dropping a letter in a mailbox. You want them to reach real people, not get caught as junk. Email providers like Gmail and Yahoo use spam traps to catch senders who aren't carefully or or use special email addresses like act like tripwires. There are two kinds of spam traps. There are pristine spam traps. These are like decoy mailboxes that never belong to anyone real. Email providers create them and sprinkle them around online like fake addresses on shady websites. No one ever signs up with these. So if your email lands there, say from a bot list, it's probably a big clue that you're sending stuff without permission. That can all get your email blocked, even to real people. So this is probably the most dangerous out of all of the types of things that you can deal with is pristine spam traps. Recycled spam traps, these are like mailboxes left behind by someone who moved out. They were once real emails, like an old personal address someone forgot about. After they sit unused for a long time, the email provider reclaims them and then turns them into spam traps. If you keep sending to these ghost addresses, it looks like you're not checking who's still active, and that can ding your reputation. Why a healthy list is a must. Think of your email list as your contact book. You only want people who actually want to hear from you. Spam traps sneak in when you've got old, outdated, or fake email cluttering things up. Sending to them is like knocking on empty doors. It's annoying, the email providers, and they might start tossing your messages in the spam bin or blocking them entirely. Keeping your list healthy means kicking out those bad emails so your messages reach real inboxes. It's about staying trusted and making sure your efforts are not wasted. And then something else we need to talk about is list decay. This is how spam traps can get into the recycled spam traps can get into your list. Um, Something every email marketer has to deal with is list decay. Simply put, list decay is the gradual decline in the quality of engagement of your email list over time. On average, lists degrade by about 22 to 30% each year due to things like unsubscribes, bounced emails, and users who simply go inactive. There are a few common reasons why this happens. People change jobs and their emails become invalid, subscribers lose interest, or your emails may be landing in the spam folder without you even knowing. And of course, if your content is irrelevant or too frequent, people will unsubscribe. The real danger here is what this does to your sender reputation. A decaying list means more bounces, fewer opens and clicks, and a higher chance of getting spam complaints, all of which can hurt your deliverability. In some cases, you may even get blacklisted. But there's good news. You can fight back with a smart list hygiene practice. This includes regularly cleaning your list and removing inactive contacts, using re-engagement campaigns to win back ones who have gone cold, and segmenting your audience so you're sending the right messages to the right people. Double opt-in is another great tactic. It ensures only true engaged users get added to your list and make sure that you monitor and engage metrics over time and verify emails at sign up to keep things clean from the start. Healthy lists lead to better results, so stay on top of list decay. Now, one thing that you're going to want to make sure is that you are using things like we have the landing pages, forms, and stuff like that inside of Act that will help you segment your list by finding out what exactly your customers are interested in. And we do have a preference center that I can show you here in a little bit. So next is our shared email addresses. Shared email addresses are like info at, sales at, or support at. They're often used for general business communications and are typically monitored by people. While they serve a purpose operationally, they can be risky from a deliverability standpoint. First, the addresses usually show very low engagement. They rarely open, click, or reply to marketing emails, which negatively impacts your sender reputation over time. Second, while multiple people managing the inbox, it's more likely that someone might mark an email as spam, even if it was permission based. There is also no ability to personalize or target these messages effectively since you're not reaching out to a known individual. And because shared addresses aren't tied to a single user, it's hard to track consent or manage preference, making compliance and segmentation challenging. Another risk is hard bounces. If the alias is shut down or misconfigured, every email you send to this will bounce, which again harms your reputation. And finally, these shared addresses are common targets for spam traps, meaning they're more likely to get you flagged by mail providers. Bottom line, if you see these types of addresses in your list, you need to evaluate whether it's worth reaching out to them and getting a different email address, or if this is a good email address to use for that particular contact. Next, we have unengaged contacts. Unengaged contacts, those on your list who have not opened or clicked on an email in over 6 months. These contacts are just inactive. They can actively harm your sender reputation. Internet service providers or ISPs monitor engagement metrics like opens and clicks to determine whether your emails are wanted. If engagement is low, your future emails are more likely to land in the spam folder, or worse, get blocked altogether. If you're sending daily, even just a month, or even just a month, sorry, if you are sending daily, even just a month of inactivity could be a red flag for less frequent senders like those mailing quarterly. 6 months of no engagement is generally the threshold for considering whether a contact is unengaged or not. But if you only send quarterly or something like that, you'll have to extend that time based upon it. That's why it's critical to set engagement thresholds and take action. If you wait too long between sends, you lose visibility into who is interested and risk damaging the sender reputation. On the right side of the slide here, you'll see a few re-engagement best practices. Try sending a targeted campaign with a clear call to action, like asking still interested. You can sweeten the message with a promo or exclusive content, or ask contacts to update their preferences to better tailor your outreach. If a contact doesn't respond after one or two attempts, it's best to suppress or sunset them to protect your overall list health. Make a habit of cleaning your list at least every 6 months and keep monitoring engagement trends to catch issues early. Ultimately, managing unengaged contacts isn't just about pruning your list, it's about keeping your inbox placement strong and marketing efforts efficient. And here we have a screen of lead risk spectrum on how you gain your leads. This spectrum visually illustrates the level of risk tied to different types of leads and lead sources. On the far left, we see our high risk leads, those that come from third parties or purchase lists, outdated permission or implied consent, like badge scans or signups without clear marketing expectations. These leads are more likely to cause spam complaints, hard bounces, or hit spam traps, which can damage your sender reputation. As we move to the center, we enter a gray area, contacts where no expectations were sent or permission was ambiguous. These are risky too because recipients may not remember signing up or might not realize they agreed to receiving marketing emails. Now, on the right hand side, we go to low risk territory. These are leads that have given explicit permission. They know what they were signing up for. Are they the gold standard? That's CAPTCHA plus explicit plus confirm. This is where someone took deliberate action, confirmed their intent via email, and you validated they were a real person. These are the subscribers that will engage and help keep your deliverability strong. The dotted line shows the industry baseline. If you're not at least operating at the explicit permission level, you're taking unnecessary risk with your list. So whenever possible, aim for practices that move you to the right side of the spectrum. Now, what I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to hop into our ACT application and I'm going to show you how we can put some of these practices into place. Give me just a moment here. I'm looking for my screen here. So here we have our ACT database. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying some of these things that we just talked about. So first I'm going to go into my contacts here and I'm going to show you that I've created a few different fields on the contact record. So we'll go ahead and zoom into one of the contacts here. And you can see here that I've created a bounce field that's able to have a date filled out in it. And then I've also created an opt-out field, a contact source field, and a last open field. These are ways that I can track what's happened with this particular contact. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how you can track those unengaged recipients and get them out of your list or people that are not active inside of your list. So next we're going to go here to groups. And I have my group here with all contacts and emails in them. The way that I created this group was I just added a dynamic query here that says contacts where email contains the @ symbol, and that's got all the email addresses in my database here. Now, I might have sent to this to begin with when I first started my marketing campaigns, but as I move on and contacts opt out, I want to change how I'm working with those. So what I can add to my queries is I can add a couple of different things. So I have here all of my addresses that are active. So if I go in here and I look at the criteria for what's an active contact, what I currently have set here is contacts where the email contains the @ symbol and where the campaign results open date was within the last 365 days. Now, maybe I want to change this value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to click on edit. And we're going to make it so that the open date is within the last 6 months, which is 180 days. We'll go ahead and add that to there. Then there's also something that I want to add to here where I'm saying, okay, well, I also don't want to include my bounces. So I'm going to go to contact and I'm going to say, I'm going to look for contacts where my bounce does not contain data. And I'm going to add that to the list. So now we have contacts that have been engaged within the last 180 days, and my bounce field does not have data in it. And why don't I also add that they're opted in? So I'm going to go ahead and go here to add another line. And we'll choose contact where opt in or opt out does not contain data. And we'll add that to the list. So now we're including our bounces and our opt-outs. We're making sure those are no longer included in the group. And we're also only adding people who have opened an email in the last 180 days. So then I can go ahead and click on preview here, and you can see how many contacts I have in my database that meet that criteria. Okay. So let's say that I ran this the day after I sent an email campaign. What I could do is I could hit OK here. And I could save this campaign. And then I would know which contacts I can email to just by using this group. So I don't need to filter out other things. Just by adding that different criteria to any group that I'm trying to email to, I can make sure that I'm not including my bounces, I'm not including my opt-outs, and I'm only engaging with contacts that have opened something in the last 6 months. Now, how do I find the contacts that have bounced or opted out? That's a good question. So what I can do here is I can go here to my contacts, and then on my contact detail screen, in the list of tabs that I have here at the bottom, I can click on campaign results, and I can look at the campaign results here. And you'll see here that I have a bounce field, an unsubscribe field, and a complain field. If someone has bounced on one of the email campaigns I've sent, unsubscribed on one of them, or complained, it will be tracked here and it will be changed from false to true. So what I can do is I can come over here and go to lookup and go to advanced and advanced query. I can go here to campaign results under the type, and I can go down to, well, let's look and see who's bounced. And I'll change the operator to true. And then I'll add that to the list, and I can preview, and you can see that I have 5 contacts in my database that are designated as bounced. And if I hit OK here, and then I look these up, then these are the contacts that have bounced. Now you can see that 2 of these have previously been recorded as bounced. So I already looked those up previously, and I flagged those as bounced. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to enter tag mode here, and I'm going to select both of those, and then I'm going to omit those from this lookup. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag all of these, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to edit, replace field, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find my bounce field, and I'm going to set this to today's date. Second here. Then we hit OK, and we say yes. And as you can see, now I have updated those contacts as bounced, so it'll meet that criteria later on. And I can do the same thing with my opt-out field. And then I can also do something where I have my last open field. So let's say that I wanted to look up everybody that has opened something in the last 6 months. I can do that real quick. So we'll go again, do a lookup, do advanced query, and we'll look for my last open field. And we're going to say that it contains data. We add that to the list and we preview, and you'll see that I have no contacts that meet that criteria because I haven't ever done this before in this database. So instead, what I'll do is I'll come here and I'll go to campaign results, and I'll go down here to my open date from the campaign results, and I'll say that I'm going to look for people who within the last 180 days have opened an email. And we'll add that to the list, and we'll remove this other one. And then we go ahead and preview that. And here we have 17 people who have opened the email in the last 180 days. So I'm going to look up those people real quick. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I'm going to say, I'm going to edit and replace that field for last opened. And since I sent out an email campaign today and these people opened it today, I'll go ahead and put today's date in there. Then we'll hit OK. And that'll update it. And now what I can do is I can do a simple search inside of my database and see if people have opened an email in the last, or anybody who hasn't opened an email recently. What I can do is I can come here, go to lookup and advanced query, and I can look for that field and I can say last opened, older than 180 days, and add that to the list. And this will pull up any contact where the last opened is older than 180 days if there's data in that field. And I have created an example of this as a group here. So if we come over here to groups, I've created a group called not opened in the last 6 months. And so this would be the contacts of my database that have not opened an email in the last 6 months. We take a look at the criteria here. We have our contact where the email address has an @ symbol in it. We have contacts where the last open is older than 180 days, or last open does not contain data. So what we're looking for is we're looking for people who are either older than 180 days or there's nothing in that last open field. And so when we look at that, I have a total. We'll go ahead and create a lookup of this. Second here. Create lookup. And so we have a total of 30 contacts that meet that criteria. And as you can see here, they're not flagged as last open. So that's a way that you could keep track of people who haven't opened. You could assign this to a salesperson inside of your company and have them reach out to these people and find out why they're not opening and if they're still a good contact or not. So these are just some examples of what you can do with the data that you get from your email campaigns and make sure that you're keeping your list healthy. Keep in mind here that you do have this information available to you and you can search on it inside of the campaign results for your database here. It shows every campaign that you've sent to them, how many times they've opened, their clicks, the last click date, the last click URL. You can click on the details to see what email template you sent them. And of course, it keeps track of whether they've bounced or unsubscribed at any point. So moving back to our presentation here real quick. Whitelisting is the next important thing to talk about. This is simple but powerful way to improve deliverability. Whitelisting is when a subscriber adds your email address to their list of approved senders, which tells inbox providers your emails are safe and welcome. That means fewer emails getting caught in spam filters and more landing in the inbox where they belong. There are several ways to encourage whitelisting. First, ask subscribers to add your email to their contacts. This small action signals trust with mailbox providers. You can include a quick reminder in your email, especially while your brand is top of mind. Keep your sender name and email address consistent so your emails are instantly recognizable. And of course, use proper email authentication with SPF, DKIM, and DMARC to further build credibility. Encouraging opens, clicks, and replies also help. These actions show engagement, which boosts reputation. At the same time, avoid spammy words and weird formatting that might raise flags, and be sure to regularly clean your list of inactive bounced addresses. The big takeaway here is your best shot of getting whitelisted is right up after sign up. Make it easy and timely, and you'll see better inbox placement as a result. Next is spam keywords. When it comes to email deliverability, your choice of words matter more than you might think. Spam filters are programmed to flag certain keywords and patterns that are commonly associated with scams, junk email, or overly aggressive marketing. On the slide, we've outlined a few categories of spam trigger words like salesy terms such as buy now or cash bonus, um, urgency language like limited time or don't miss out, and manipulative phrases like risk free or guaranteed. These can all raise red flags with inbox providers. Even formatting can cause some alerts to be set off, like all caps, too many exclamation marks, or a bunch of dollar signs in a row. So, how do you stay out of trouble? Start by writing naturally. Avoid sounding like an infomercial. Use tools like Act Marketing Automation to test your subject lines before sending. Personalize your emails to build a real connection, and make sure your message includes a healthy balance of text and visuals. Bottom line, if your message feels pushy, formulaic, or too good to be true, filters will likely agree. Stay authentic, clear, and human, and you'll have a much better shot at making it to the inbox. Next is subject lines. Subject lines are the gatekeepers of your email performance. Even the most compelling message won't matter if your subject line gets your email put into the filter or worse, in spam. This slide outlines a few key tips to help you craft better subject lines that not only reach the inbox, but also grab attention. First, keep it short and clear, around 6 to 10 words or under 50 characters. You want it to be scannable, especially on a mobile device. Next, avoid common spam trigger words like free, cash, or act now. These terms are red flags for fillers and can damage sender reputation. Personalization can cut through the noise. Using someone's name or behavior can make a huge difference as well. Also, never include RE colon or FW colon when using a email marketing provider. RE colon represents a reply, and FW colon represents um, forward. And you can't reply or forward a message through an email marketing service. And if it's not a reply or not a forwarded message, you should never use it because it's misleading. So make sure that you're not using those as well. It also helps to create curiosity or communicate a clear value. Think of a question or a teaser that gives people a reason to open, like ready to close more deals. Um, Also, don't forget to do A to B testing with different subject lines on your email campaigns to boost your open rates. You might be surprised what a few word changes can do to help change the performance of your emails. Emojis are okay, but less is more. A check mark or a sparkle can add flair, but overdoing it comes off as spammy. And finally, whatever your promise in the subject line, deliver it in the email. Misleading tactics can hurt trust and engagement in the long run. Remember, your subject line sets the tone. Make it count. Optimizing text to image ratios in emails. When it comes to email design, visuals can enhance your message, but if you rely too heavily on them, your deliverability can take hit. That's why optimizing the text to image ratio is so important. Inbox providers often flag emails with too many images and not enough text as potential spam. To avoid that, aim for at least a 60-40 split where 60% is text and 40% is image. Some experts suggest 70-30 ratio to stay on the safe side. It's also crucial to include meaningful alt text for your images. This not only improves accessibility for users with screen readers, but also ensures your message still lands even if images don't load. So this is part of when you're building the template. There's a field inside of the template builder called alt text. This is where you put in a text description of the image that you are putting in that particular content block. Never send image only emails. These are red flags for spam filters and often get blocked entirely. Instead, use HTML text wherever possible so your content is searchable, accessible, and mobile friendly. And finally, test how your emails render across different devices and clients. You want your layout to hold up even if your message images are being blocked, because if your message disappears without the visuals, your engagement likely will too. So remember, let the text do the heavy lifting and use the images to enhance, not replace your content. Tools, resources, and wrap up. The next slide here, top 5 deliverability tips, are just a list of things that we've come up with that are our top 5 things that you should look at when you're thinking about deliverability. Get clear, explicit permission. Only send to people who clearly and knowingly opted into your to hear from you. Keep your list clean and engaged. A disengaged or outdated list hurts your sender reputation and deliverability. Authenticate your domain. Without domain authentication, your emails may be blocked, flagged, or quarantined. Send on a consistent schedule. Irregular sending patterns can make your emails look suspicious to inbox filters. And avoid spammy content and design. Poor formatting and language can trigger filters and hurt inbox placement. Um, if you need a hand, we have you covered. You can take a look at the different ways that we can help you here. As we wrap up today's session, I want to leave you guys with a reminder that you don't have to go it alone. Whether you're just getting started with ACT marketing automation or you're looking to optimize what you're already doing, we're here to help. If you need help setting up your account, understanding how marketing automation works, or just making sure everything is configured correctly, we offer through our AMA setup and configuration service. So reach out to support if you are interested in our AMA setup and configuration service. Need help getting more creative and strategic with your campaigns or campaign design and automation? Service connects you with experts who can help you build, launch, and track effective campaigns. We'll walk you through everything from templates and landing pages to survey metrics and more. And if deliverability or compliance is a concern, our deliverability and compliance services are designed to protect your sender reputation, improve your inbox placement, and ensure you're meeting the requirements like GDPR and opt-out management. If you're interested in any of these services or just want to learn more, give us a call. The number listed on the screen, whether you're in the US or UK here at the bottom, or reach out to our ACT certified consultants. We're here to support your guys' success. Really quickly, I want to show you one more thing with our template or with our marketing automation account here real quick, where you can look and see where you get the opt-ins and creating forms and stuff like that. So inside of marketing automation here, you click here. Then you go to admin here. And then under admin, you'll see that I have a few different things. I have my subscription management. This is where I design my unsubscribe pages. And then I have subscription management preference center. This is kind of similar to our landing pages, but this is where you can set up something where you can include a link inside of your email template for a preference center. So if I go here, what I could do is I could design a preference center form where I'm asking a customer what they would like to receive information for. And I do have an account set up that can show this stuff, but it's pretty much just like these landing pages that we have inside of here, where you can create a form and then you can map the information to fields inside your database to track whether or not they've opted in. So here's the questions that I've created on the form, and then I take that information and I map it to a field in the database to keep track of that information. So in the case of preferences, what I would do is I would create fields inside of my database that have the different preferences selected. And then when someone goes to that preference center and then fills out that form, it's going to update the database on their contact records with that information on what their preferences are. And then I can further segregate my groups based upon what their email preferences are. So that's just another thing to keep in mind that's available here under admin and then subscription management stuff here. And then, of course, we have our suppression list emails. If people have bounced or opted out, that's where that information is going to be located. But these are very valuable things to take a look at. And if you need assistance with it, you can always reach out to someone in our support team. So, lastly, as I said at the beginning, we sincerely appreciate seeing so many of you each month on these training webinars. We have a web page at act.com/explore where you can sign up for upcoming webcasts and view recordings of ones you may have missed from prior months. There's a ton of great content here, ranging from product how-to guidance to best practices for sales and marketing to guidance and reporting and analytics, you name it. With the recordings, you can watch them at your own pace when it's convenient for you. You can also email us at team@act.com if you have suggestions or ideas for future webcasts. We do love to get feedback from you guys. Thanks, everyone, and take care. We'll stay on the webinar a bit longer to address any questions remaining in the Q&A panel. Have a great day.
Hey, Andy, I've got a few questions that have come up during this that I'm hoping you can answer live.
Yep, I can do that for you.
So when we started off, there were a few questions that came in about the DMARC. And one person said that they're getting DMARC notifications emails back to them from their website, but they don't know what to do with that information.
So it's going to depend on the error message that they're receiving on what the action is that they need to take.
Okay.
If they're getting, so a DMARC tells you whether it's passing or not passing DKIM or SPF. And so the response that they're going to be getting back is going to be related to that. And it has to do with how their email administrator has set up that DMARC text record. So there's different ways that you can set up that DMARC text record. You can say that it's going to reject anything that doesn't match them specifically, or you can say that it's relaxed and it's going to allow certain things through. So it depends on how they have set up that DMARC text record on what they need to do. So what they should really do is they should consult their service provider on whatever it is that they're getting back from them and how their DMARC is configured. Now, keep in mind with Act Marketing Automation, you cannot have the SPF set to strict with Act Marketing Automation because we sign the envelope with our IP address. So if they have their DMARC set to strict with the SPF, it will auto fail any marketing email that's sent through Act Marketing Automation. So that is something to keep in mind there. That is one caveat.
Okay, thank you. Another question about DMARC. and they asked would they need to have a DMARC set up for their Microsoft email that they're using. I'm assuming that they're sending it through AMA.
Whether they're sending it through AMA or not, I would recommend that everyone set up both DKIM and DMARC on their servers. This is something that helps with authentication, whether you're using an internet service provider or not. You should have SPF, DKIM, and DMARC set up. If you're not sure how to do that, you can consult with your internet service provider or the person that you purchased the domain through, and they can assist you with getting those things set up. If you need help getting your DKIM set up with ACK Marketing Automation, you can reach out to our support team and they can help you get that started. We do have an article that talks about that in our knowledge base as well.
Right. We had a question about someone who was concerned with the decay section that were talking about, and they said they had thousands of old emails in ACT. They don't want to lose their possible clients, but they know that most of those emails are going to be out of use. And so what they want to do is, how do they send um, maybe a campaign to those emails without their reputation getting hit?
It would be impossible if we're being honest. It would be impossible to send out an email to a list of old email addresses without having your reputation suffer a little bit. The first thing that I would do though is there are list cleaning services like there is a list cleaning service in Linktivity that allow you to check and see if these email addresses are still valid or not. That would be the first thing that I do. So I would check the list through a list cleaning service to make sure that the email address is at least still valid. So that'll help remove the bounces and email addresses that are no longer good, right? Now, that's not going to help you get rid of spam traps because spam traps are good email addresses. They just are old recycled ones. So there's a good chance with those old email addresses that you have that some of those might be spam traps. So that's the major risk that you're going to be um, embarking upon if you do try and send an email to these people. But if you do re-engage through a campaign like this, make sure you include a call to action, have a form in there that asks them to resubscribe, and also have something that asks them what type of content that they would like to receive from you. And then also after they filled out that form, have an email go out to them so that they can double opt in and confirm this. That would probably be the best way to do it. It's not the thing that we love to see the most happen, with old contacts, but this is a method that you could use for those old contacts to re-engage them. Um, that would probably be my recommendation: is clean the list and then make sure that you have a call to action when you send in that's going to re-engage them and get them to opt back into messages that you're sending.
And for somebody who's looking for a list cleaning service, should they just Google that? Is there something that you recommend?
Well, we have through our Linktivity service. There is a list cleaning service. Otherwise, just Google it and find it. There's nothing that we recommend outside of what's in Linktivity.
Okay. Um, Couple of things that maybe we could demonstrate in ACT. One person asked, how do they see the email suppression list?
So that was what I was showing you just a second ago. Um, Email suppression list is right here. So you go to admin again, you click here, you come down to suppression list email, you click go, and then this is going to give you a list of all the emails that have been suppressed. And you'll notice here that the status, some of these say not suppressed. The reason why this one says not suppressed is this was my email and I was testing unsubscribe. And so I came back in here and I removed it from suppression by clicking on this X. Now I can toggle it back and forth. As you can see, I changed it back to suppressed by clicking on this X. So if you do have someone who opted out by accident, you can come back in here and you can change it from suppressed to not suppressed, and then wait for 24 hours for that to cycle through the servers. But that's how you can check and see who's bounced and suppressed and who's unsubscribed and suppressed.
Right. From the dashboard of a campaign, there's a lot of um, data based on whether the emails were sent successfully or whether they weren't sent successfully. One of those fields deals with complaints. Can you kind of explain what that means, what the complaint means?
So complaints is when a customer goes into the email or inside of their inbox and they like right click on it and choose this is spam or something to that effect. So complaints are where someone has taken action on the email itself and said, I didn't ask for this. And to give some you guys a reference as far as deliverability is concerned, anything above a 5% bounce rate is considered abusive sending. Anything above a 0.01 percent complaint rate is considered abusive. So if you're only allowed one complaint per thousand emails that you send. So it's pretty strict with
Right.
that.
So complaints carries a lot more weight than just a regular
Correct,
bounce or undeliverable type thing.
correct.
Okay. As far as the bounces, you had shown that there was you had created a bounce field, I think, for one of your contacts detail view. Um, the question I got was, um, is this is this a field that you recommend creating, or how do they populate the bounce field, or are there any other fields that you can recommend creating that can kind of coincide with Act Marketing Automation on the contact level?
So the main major fields that I have is I have my bounce field, I have my opt out field, I have my contact source field. This is where I track where they opted in from, and then I have my last open field. Now, in some demos that I've done with customers that had like a roofing company or stuff like that, what I would do is I would create a newsletter opt in tab here at the bottom, and then I would have all of their different types of newsletters and products listed in there, and then I would have a preferences page that I would, create that related to that, and that those preferences would directly write back to that tab and check mark any boxes for the preferences that they have in there. So it is kind of, like business specific on what you want, but the primaries that I would have in here are going to be bounces, your opt outs, your contact source, and your last open. I think those are probably the most. You could also put complaints on here. Complaints wouldn't be bad either.
And then that will get automatically populated as soon as something bounces, right?
No, so these ones don't get automatically populated. That's where I did that lookup where I came here and I did that advanced query. And what I would do is I would say, okay, I'm going to look for the campaign results of and notice I'm not looking at my contact table. I'm looking at my campaign results here where bounced equals true. And then I look up these contacts here. And these are the contacts that have recently bounced. And now what I'm going to do here, and this is where earlier in the webinar I was talking about where I updated the field for these contacts, if you remember. So I added the date to these fields after I sent the campaign today.
Okay.
So these ones were new and these ones already had data in them. So what I do is I omit the ones that already had data in them, and then I use edit and replace to update these bounce fields with today's new date. And that way I can keep track of what date
Right.
they sent to. So this is something that I do every time after I send a campaign. I go through the database, I look for all the bounces, I find any ones that have empty bounce fields. I omit all the ones that already have data, and then I update all the ones that were empty with today's date.
So you create a lookup and then you go to the edit menu and then you use
Correct.
the replace field function from the edit menu to manage that. Okay.
Correct. And I
Um,
do the same thing with opt outs and complaints as well.
I see. Okay. Couple other questions. I know we're running a little bit over, but we're almost out of them here. Um, if I had one person asked if they're only sending about 30 cold emails per day per rep. They want to know if there's any risks that they should be aware of, and to get more into like the specifics of it, they use um, uh, an outbound uh, thing to get kind of like not new customer or not customers that are already in Act, but they're using cold emails from sales reps to go to non-subscribers, and they want to know, is this something they should use outside of Act Marketing Automation, or should they use that inside Act Marketing Automation?
Yeah, so marketing automation, we have an anti-spam policy, and it is an explicit permission-based policy service. So you have to have permission from the contact in order to email them through marketing automation. If you do not have um, permission from the contact, you are violating our anti-spam policy, and your Act Marketing Automation account can be at risk of being suspended or terminated if you violate those policies. So make sure that you have explicit permission for your contacts before you send to them, and you will be fine as far as our anti-spam policy is concerned.
I'm glad you made that distinction because we have, there are lots of people who purchase contact lists from third parties and think that that is permission. Um, but it's not because they don't know what you're using that list for. So how could they be giving you permission um, to use their email address? So thank you, Andy.
Correct.
Um, oh, really quickly, can you just go to one of your templates and show how to autofill a name in the subject line? You mentioned that's a great way in the subject line to
Correct.
get through the spam filters. Can you just show that we have that merge feature in the subject line for an email template?
Yeah. So what I would do is I would come in here to my campaign. Um, I'll go into one that I've already created here. And then I would come into one of my email steps here, and we'll edit the email step. And then after I've set up my template here, I'm going to go to actions and then properties. And this is where I can set up my subject line. And then in my subject line, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in my mail merge field. So let's say that I want to put in their first name here. I would put my first name, and then I would put the rest of my subject here.
And that's a very useful way to bypass the spam filters because now you're personalizing it for each individual contact who receives this email.
Yep. And as you can see here, after I've updated the subject line, it appears in the parentheses here at the top of the email step.
Last question, I think, is what is the AMA score? What is that all about?
AMA score is something that has to do with um, the scoring profiles that we have inside of ACT. So that is a feature that we have on, I believe it's complete service level and above, if I'm not mistaken. We have a default scoring profile where you can set what things you want to be scored. So in this particular case, the default scoring profile looks 90 days back on each of these things. And we're looking for emails clicked, emails opened, landing pages completed, or any web page visited. And if it meets any of these criteria, then they get a score for it. You can change whether the scores accumulate or not by changing this from false to true. If you change them to accumulate, then that means that if they've opened it 5 times, that it's going to be a total score of 5. If I don't have accumulate turned on, then any email they open, it's only worth a value of 1 total. And so if they've opened 5 emails, it'll still be only a value of 1. And so it adds up those scores together, and then it writes to the AMA score field in the database. And then from there, it would populate into our hot leads section here, which will show our hot leads at the bottom here. So you can see which contacts have the most interaction. You can see here that we have some with a score here. And then this is how many total sends this contact has. And these are like their opens and their clicks and stuff.
Yeah,
So, if I click on any one of these, it'll take me to that record and allow me to call them and follow up with them.
it's
So
a
that's,
great way to kind of identify your hot leads or pre-qualify um, potential customers who are really engaged with your emails, with your web forms, whatever it is. Not really directly tied to email deliverability, but it's just another feature inside Act Marketing Automation that can help you identify the contacts whom you should be marketing first.
yeah, and it's customizable, so I can customize it based upon whatever campaigns I've sent out. If I only want to track one campaign, I can track one campaign. If I want to track everything, I can track everything.
Yep. And then just last question came in. This is it. Uh, is there such a thing as ghost bounces? We had one person say that they used to get campaigns returning with a bounce, but then they find out later that the email is actually fine.
I mean, that is something that is up to the recipient server. We don't have any control over that. If the recipient server is telling us that it did not deliver the message, then we take them at their word. So if the recipient server tells us that it bounced and then they decided to deliver it, I don't hear that happening, but I suppose it's possible.
Okay, that's it for the questions. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks everybody else for attending. We will have another webinar at the end of next month, so make sure you go to act.com/explore to view our previous webinars, and you can even sign up there so that you'll get a notification when the next one is going to be airing, and you can attend it live just like this. So thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Have a good day, guys.